After taking a week off, you guys are back. You head to a place that competed at a place that you guys competed at the beginning of the season, so familiar with the surroundings. But just talk about this collegiate championship going on this weekend.
You know, it's hard to believe that it's already here, and team I think is generally getting pretty excited. We've had a rough couple of weeks, and you know, it's just one of those years where the travel schedule is such that it requires long distances, and what we've seen as a theme up and down the West Coast has been fairly high winds. And as we head into Sacramento, they've experienced them for 3 consecutive weeks. They've not had any let up on the windy conditions. It's going to be warm. It's going to be 80 degrees, which is really a bit of a stretch when you practice at 6 in the morning and the average temperature is between 35 and 45 degrees. So we've been just trying to gear up for that. Been doing a fair amount of seat racing to try to figure out what's going to be our respective lineups going into the weekend. Of course, this is a big ranking weekend for the West because all 4 schools will be at the WERA Championships. And what we hope to see is at least some fairly reasonable water to try to get back into contact with Western Washington.
No matter how you guys fare this week, you still will go on to that next rowing event and then so on. So,
this weekend we will face off with 33 universities in Sacramento. So there's preliminary heats. Some finals happen on Saturday afternoon. Big finals happen on Sunday morning. And our goal really is to get as many boats to Sunday morning rowing. And we feel like we have a fairly good shot in at least, I think, 6 of the 7 events that we're in right now. So I think, in heading in the right direction, I think we have a fairly competitive field, even up against some of the big Division I programs.
Looking at the release, it said that just keeping the team healthy this season has been an issue. Going into this regatta this weekend, how are you guys health-wise and like the lineup on the boats this weekend?
The Varsity 8 I think has probably been the biggest challenge. I'm not sure that there's been one race this season where all 8 have been fully healthy. I'm not sure that we're 100% there. Maybe next week, maybe that could be the week where it all comes together. And there's, I guess, worse places for it to happen. But it's starting to move through the team. So we've definitely seen bodies in and out. We're looking at pulling 2 kids out of the lineups this week, both in pretty pivotal boats, but they're still really sick. And, students just, coach, put me in, I'm okay, it'll be fine. And, they're sitting there and they're definitely not fine, not healthy by any stretch. And, I'm sure that happens with all teams. It's just it's a little challenging when you need 4 or 8 rowers to be able to row a boat and you lose one key member. It really does affect the speed of the hoe.
I kind of talked about it before. You guys are familiar with the surroundings this weekend, but a lot of the other teams, I mean, it's not like really, I guess, that much of an advantage, but knowing that, hey, a lot of teams, have raced here before. Talk if any advantage, or is this basically a level playing field for everybody there this weekend?
It's been tough in the West. There's no doubt about it. Either you've had a 15-mile-an-hour headwind or you've had a 15-mile-an-hour tailwind. Either direction, it's not easy to row. So what we found is the schools that really can get their blades in and out of the water are the ones that are doing well. Is it a level playing field? Obviously the events are seeded, and generally if you look at seeded events, it's going to give you a fairly good inclination as to how things are going to pan out. We're hoping to shake some of those seeds up. For some schools, we've not seen any of them all year long, and just by default, by being Division I, they get a higher seed. And the preliminaries will really help clear out where people belong, whether it's in the grand finals or the petite level finals. It makes it for very good racing when you go to the finals. The winds are out of the west, which is going to be a cross headwind, and usually if you get lane number 1, seed 1, if the winds are coming out of the east, you usually get some pretty good protection. So what makes it level this weekend is it's going to suck for everybody. And, that's just the reality of those type of windy conditions. So it makes it a level playing field, really, because everybody has to face the same conditions.
You were talking about a little while ago about the injuries and illness, those kind of things that come up. I was just thinking the depth has to be so important in your sport. like you said, it's the slowest rowers, how it affects you. Do you feel like your team has that kind of depth pretty well throughout this year, or does it fall off pretty quickly when you get beyond your top?
You know, we definitely changed the way that we trained. We definitely required a much higher level of fitness from all of our team members this year, and so I feel like the depth is pretty good, but not deep enough that if you lose one key member from your boat that they're easily replaced. You know, we've had some pretty big hardships this year. We just lost a young lady who practiced for 3 days with appendicitis, and it was 6 inches in diameter by the time they pulled it out. And you know, she had been complaining about having stomach pains, and in hindsight we should probably be clear about where your stomach is versus where your appendix is. And so I don't know, I think we've seen some really good fitness scores this year. I think that's been really evident in the novice program, where their level of fitness has probably had the ability to change the most, and therefore you've seen such a clarity of that in their racing. They've been highly competitive, and you know, the real challenge will be this weekend to just how competitive we are against those D1 schools. You know, what happens next week, of course, is we go to the D2, D3 regional championship, and so it makes for a nice culmination of a season for the regular team. And you know, we're all working, you know, reasonably hard with the expectation of trying to continue that racing beyond next weekend. Thank you.